Hello there everyone and welcome to a new review on the channel. And today we are going to be looking at Premiere by David Jonathan and Nikolas Mavresis, their brand new effect, and quite a good one is that has a bit of caveats that you should know before purchasing. So that's why I'm making this review, because I think this is going to be very informative for a lot of people before making their purchase, because I think this is on a lot of people's radar. So let's really get into a deep dive of Premiere right after the intro. Perfect. So you decide to stick around, which means you want to learn more about Premiere. Now, what is Premiere? Premiere is a three-phase effect in which you are able to divine the movie your spectator has chosen while you turned your head. You will then be able to have the spectator put chips on the respective envelopes and have the chips match perfectly to the movie inside of the envelope. And then lastly, you will show them that all their choices have been predetermined from the start and that they were looking at what was going to happen from the get-go. So that's kind of what the routine is. It's hard to explain briefly, but I think it's better to show you. So I'm going to perform this routine to you, but I am going to perform it more towards myself rather than towards the camera, because as you know, for a lot of effects, my camera does not help me at all with angles. And the way that my camera is, if I do this effect towards the camera, it's going to be really hard for me to hide everything that's going on, because the camera is essentially directly looking at it. That's not an issue in the real world. I've performed this already 5 or so times to spectators and to people, and there's no issues regarding that. It's just camera issues, and it is what it is. So just for the sake of editing and basically not having to blur out half of the routine, because the camera is literally showing things that the naked eye or that a normal spectator cannot see in performance, is just not really enticing. So I'm just going to perform it towards myself for the sake of that and to give you basically a better performance. So you would essentially introduce these envelopes and you tell them these are part of a subscription service where you get movies sent to you every month from a different genre. So you get a commemorative kind of token and a movie, and you also get a QR code where you can go watch the movie, and then you can go online on a blog and talk about the movie, analyze it with your fellow peers. And it's a very fun little thing, and being someone that loves movies, it's really cool. Then you could talk to your spectator if they love movies. And then you're going to tell them that they're going to choose one of these movies, so you're going to mix these up, okay? And then you tell them to just touch one. Let's say they touch the third one. It really doesn't matter. It is thoroughly a free choice. You then remove from inside the movie, and you tell them, take a look at it, remember it, okay? So they would do that. I don't know if it's the right side up or whatever, so I'm just going to show it on both sides. You then proceed to place it back inside, and then you can just shuffle everything back again, okay? So everything gets shuffled again. And then you tell them, of course, you have the different genre. You have fantasy, you have music, animation, drama, horror. And as I told you, just for the sake of this, we're going to perform it towards myself. And then you tell them, you remember I also told you every movie comes with a commemorative kind of token, and I have these tokens right here, okay? So what I'm going to have you do is determine on what envelope does this token go on. So where do you think this goes? Let's say they say horror, you tell them perfect, we'll place it there. What about this one? Let's say they say music, what about this one? Let's say they say there. What about this? They say drama, and what about this? Let's say they say animation. And then tell them, do they want to change their mind? They can. Let's say they want to change their mind for this and replace it with this. So they could change their mind if they want. It's free for them to do that. So they've placed this on wherever they wanted, and then you would just essentially remove the tokens from the envelopes, right? So we just remove those, place them in front of the respective envelopes, just like that. Okay. And then you would remove also the movies from inside. So here you would have 8 Mile in front of that. Here you would have Toy Story 3 in front of animation. For drama, here you're going to have One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. For horror, you have the movie 7. And for fantasy, you have the movie Lord of the Rings and the Two Towers. So now I can do this facing you. We're going to place this in the respective positions. So you have these, and now you tell the spectator that they place these tokens in front of every single one of these, and they got to change their mind. So you tell them, the most obvious one is the movie 7. What do you notice that the movie 7 has in particular with all of these? And they're going to immediately know there's a number in the title and tell them, yeah, so what's the prominent number here? 7. And you placed this token over here. And I told you, every token is part of only one movie. And you placed the token with the number 7 on the movie 7. Let's go to Toy Story 3. You placed a 3 on Toy Story 3. And I'm just going to go quickly. So 1 on there and 2 on here. So they got everything perfectly. Every single one they managed to get perfectly. But now you tell them, actually, you also picked a movie, right? And I couldn't know what movie you picked. But let me try something here. So I'm a big horror fan, and I think that I would have known or get a feeling if you picked a horror movie. So I know you didn't pick 7. So I know you didn't pick 7. I also know you didn't pick this because a lot of people don't know this movie. So I don't think you picked that one as well. We're just going to place these to the side. I don't think you picked Toy Story 3 either. So it's between these two. Think about your movie. Think about the genre. I immediately know. I immediately got it. You just briefly looked at 8 Mile. You picked 8 Mile, right? They're going to say yes. Then you tell them, but you know what's interesting is that you place these tokens in this specific order. And you chose this movie. And this couldn't have happened any differently. Because from the start, it was determined that you were going to choose 8 Mile. Because if you look here, with just a change of perspective, you can see that the tokens spell 8 Mile. I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up, so maybe I'm going to angle it a bit towards the camera so you can see that it shows 8 Mile. Okay? So that is a performance of Premiere by David Jonathan and Nikolas Mavresis. Okay, so that's kind of a performance of the effect. So having said all of that, let's get now into where do you buy this, how much does it cost, and what do you get? So you can pretty much buy this anywhere since it is distributed from Murphy's Magic. It will set you back $44.95 USD, which is basically $45. I bought mine from ALAKAZAM, and if you want to buy yours from there as well, there's a 10% discount code in the description. And that's where I got mine in as well. Now let's talk about what you get. So you are getting these cards. These are really nice, thick cards. You can even hear it. It's not like paper stock. It's very thick cardboardy cards with the movies. You also get your envelopes. So these are kind of thick envelopes. These are not Tyvek or anything, but they're still pretty thick. The embossing on them is great. So you get these envelopes as well. And then you also get your tokens, which are like tough plastic tokens. These are going to last a long time. You get your tokens as well. And you also get an additional thing that's going to help you reset the effect. Okay, because this needs to be reset. And that specific thing that you get is going to help you reset it. And then you also get your instructional video. So your instructional video is basically an hour long. It's like 59 minutes and 13 seconds. So basically an hour long, and it starts out with Nikolas and Jonathan presenting to you the effect, and then they bring it to Javier in the Murphy studio, and he's the one that explains to you how to set this up, the different variations and routines, and how everything kind of works and flows, and everything that you need to know when you perform this effect. So he teaches you everything that's important, so you're going to get great tuition. Javier is incredible in that regard. I love every Murphy's tutorial purely because of how well he explains everything and how to the point he is. So that's what you get with your effect. So having said that, let's now talk about practicality. I mean, difficulty first, always difficulty. I've been jumping the gun because I think I wanted to talk about practicality the most about this effect. But let's start difficulty first. So is this difficult to perform? And the answer is no. This is pretty much the props doing everything for you. There's a bit of handling things that you do need to do during the routine, but it's nothing too difficult. You just have to make sure that everything works as intended. So there's a bit of, handling that you have to do, but it's not like moves or anything. You just need to make sure that when you remove certain things or when you show certain things, that you do it in the correct way as to ensure the effect works, right? So that's pretty much it. In terms of difficulty, it's very, very not that difficult. Even a beginner could do this with just a bit of practice. Moving on now to practicality, right? Now we're talking about practicality because that's where the bulk of what I have to mention about this effect will come to play. So first of all, if you want to perform this, you'll have to carry around your envelopes, your cards, and your tokens. So you're going to have to carry around all of that to perform this. And also, since these are not, as I mentioned, Tyvek envelopes or anything like that, you don't want to really put these in your pocket and have these in your pocket and just go around with these in your trousers or in your jacket, because you don't want to damage them or anything like that. So I think it's better if you do want to perform this kind of walk around for you to basically just buy maybe a protective sleeve, put everything inside, like put your tokens and the cards and everything in the protective sleeve, so that everything works a bit better and that it is protected. Okay, so you will have to carry around the props with you. Also, you will need a table for this. You cannot just do this in the hands or anything like that. You will need a table, but not a large surface. As long as you can just place the envelopes on the table and then have the tokens in front, you're good in that regard. So it doesn't require major table space, but you will need a table. Additionally, there's no angle issues for the real life or even for cameras. Just my camera, the way it's filming, is really low. But if I were to just put it up a bit and you would not see my face at all, just my hands and the mat, you would not see anything. So angle issues in the real world or even on camera, on video, you don't see anything. It's just me. My angle is so like directly in the mat that it doesn't play in my favor. And I just wanted to avoid any possible flash, so I just performed it a bit differently. But in the real life, there's no angle issues whatsoever with this. Additionally, one thing that you have to know about this is that yes, it is the same outcome every time. So you have to keep in mind that you will always reveal 8 Mile at the end. So make sure that you know that as well. And then lastly, there's a reset for this that you cannot do in front of the spectator. So I could not reset this in front of you right now. I would have to go off camera or maybe under the table and take the specific thing from the packaging to reset the effect. And it takes around, initially it took me around 45 seconds to reset it. And now that I became a bit more proficient into how resetting it, takes me around 20 to 25 seconds to reset the effect, but it's not something you can reset in the front of the spectator at all. So just keep in mind, if you want to do this walk around from table to table, you will need after every table to go in your case, reset the effect, and then go back and perform it. So there is a bit of a reset that needs some specific things extra for you to be able to reset the effect and for it to go again. So I think that's a major thing that you need to know about this, okay? So having said that as well, I want to mention the last thing, examinability. Is this examinable? And the answer is yes and no. So no matter the version you perform, the tokens are examinable. So these tokens here are examinable by the spectator at the end, so they can examine those. And in the way that I've performed it right now, the way that I chose to perform the effect, I think in the performance, I kind of subconsciously showed you, right, as I was telling you, I don't think it's this movie, right? Because you may think there's double cards on the back or anything like that. That's not what's at play here. So I was kind of subconsciously doing this, and these are inspectable. These, the spectators can look at them, they can examine them, they can do whatever they want with them, but the envelopes aren't. So in the way that I've performed it, the envelopes are not examinable, but these are. If you want to perform it the other way that they teach you in the tutorial, the envelopes are fully examinable, the tokens remain examinable, but the cards here are not examinable. So you get to pick and choose, you get provided all the material that you need to choose whether you want to do it this way and have everything here examinable but not the envelopes, or do it the other way and have all of this and this examinable but not the cards. So you can choose whatever way you want in terms of having things examined. You choose what you think has more heat depending on your own preference. So do you think the envelopes have more heat? Do you think the cards have more heat? You get to decide and you get provided everything that you need to tweak your performance to either have this or another one, you know, in terms of how you want to perform it. So either this variation or the other, you get provided everything for you in that regard, okay? So moving on now to where to perform. So where would you perform this? So I think that I've mentioned the fact that it does take a reset, you do need a table, and it is always the same outcome, which to a lot of people, this is going to rule it out for close-up. But you can also think about it, instead of doing it from table to table, you could perform it maybe at a table close-up there, reset it during the night, perform it at a table a bit further, reset it at one point and do it there. So you don't have to do this from table to table to table to table. And I don't think you will do this from table to table to table, because I don't think this was intended to be performed that way. Which means that if you're someone that table hops and that wants a routine that he can do from every single table, quick reset, fast and furious style, just go and do your magic, this is not for that scenario. So this is not for table hopping or cocktails or anything like that. This is more for something like a parlor, a close-up show, online, so maybe something on Zoom, maybe a one-off performance for a special table, maybe something that you're doing at a bar or at a restaurant for like a person or for your group, maybe something that you're doing at your home, or maybe something that you're gonna do at a convention or something like this, or if you're going to a Comic-Con or something, or like Movie Con or whatever, you can have this in your pocket and perform it for people, right? So this is something you perform once, I feel, and then you can reset it and perform it later, but not something you workhorse all your way through the night, because I don't think it was designed for that. So it'd be a bit, unjust for me to tell you that, this is a bad trick because of that, because it wasn't really designed for that. I think it was more designed for mostly David's and Nikolas's kind of performance style, which I think they do perform a lot of kind of parlor or Zoom shows, or like close-up parlor shows or close-up magic shows. So I think for those scenarios, this is killer. So parlor or close-up scenarios like that, I think this works well. So having said all of this, what are the positives and negatives of Premiere, and would I recommend Premiere to you, and what would I rate out of 10? So first, let's look at the negatives. So what are the negatives of Premiere? One, it is always the same outcome. So I know for some people that's a negative, for some it isn't, but I do think it is worth mentioning that it's always the same outcome. And for some people, that is an extremely big negative. It is not necessarily for me, but I do need to mention it because it is something that a lot of people will find as a negative, so it is important to mention. Second of all, the reset does take a hefty amount of time. I know 25 seconds isn't that much, but the fact you cannot reset it in front of the spectator or as you move from table to table, the fact you need to go in your carrying case to get the additional thing to reset it and then perform it again, it is a bit of a hefty reset. And I think for some people that is going to be important for them to know and would be possibly a negative. And lastly, of course, this is all subjective. For me, examinability in 90% of the effect is not important, but I know it is important for some people. But no, not everything is examinable. But you do get the variations to pick and choose what you want to maybe possibly be examined. Okay. So having said all of that, what are the positives? So the positives are the routine is super easy to perform. The routine is very fooling. The routine feels very free. The premise is very good. All the methods that are working here are very good. The props that you get and the tuition are top notch. And I do think that the routine and the way it's structured is also great. Okay, so having said all of this, would I recommend Premiere, and what would I rate out of 10? So I think I would recommend Premiere if you are someone that maybe wants this because they love movies and they know that if people come at their house or if they go somewhere, they can do a one-off performance and do this. I recommend it. If you do kind of a parlor or a close-up magic show or something like a bit more close-up with a few people, this is going to work, and I think you're going to love the workings of it and how this plays out. But if you're someone that was looking for a routine that he can do from table to table to table and be their workhorse, I do not recommend this for you, because you're going to find more annoying things than positives about that if you're that type of performer. So having said all that, what would I rate it out of 10? I'm going to rate Premiere by Nikolas, Mavresis, and David Jonathan an 8. And the reason I'm rating it an 8 is because I am going to perform it, but I'm not going to be able to perform it as with a lot of effects also that I've reviewed a few weeks past, like intuition or others. It's not an effect that I get the chance to perform, because I don't get the chance to perform in a lot of environments like that. Usually, I have numerous tables and some people are really far back when I perform, so I can't be performing an effect like this for a small audience, for an audience like that, right? Playing here for larger. So it's either that or I perform close up, like table to table, table hopping, and I have like 20, 25 tables to do in an hour. So I can't really take, after every table of time to reset. But yeah, so it's not going to be something I'm going to be performing all the time. It's not going to be one of the workhorse, but it is a good routine, and it is something that is good in its own right, but it's just not something that I'm going to be performing at every opportunity I get because of some of its restrictions. So yeah, an 8 on 10. It is a good effect, but it does have some drawbacks that affect me and I think will affect others. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. Leave a comment as well. As always, I'll try and respond to you, and we can get a dialogue going. So thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.